Hello. Welcome back to a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast. This is one of the very last episodes of the year. And I've been talking a lot about how to end the year strong and create momentum into 2022. And as we get to the very last days of the year, I want to share with you something that has been really powerful for me. And that is to identify or pick my power word for the year. So as we go into 2022, I'm going to share with you what is the power of having a power word? What does it even mean? And what are the 5 steps to pick your own power word for 2022? Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. We're so close from the end of the year. Are you ready to leave 2021 behind and start making changes in 2022? Are you excited for the new year that is coming up in just a few days? One thing that I've been doing for the last couple of years is that I started to pick a power word for the year. So, right before the new year or in the very first days of the new year, I go through these 5 steps that I'm going to share with you today to pick a power word for the year. Last year, for the first time, I engraved that word on a bracelet that I've been wearing all year long. And just to remind me of the word and most importantly, the meaning behind the word that I picked for the year. Um, Last year or this year in 2021, I picked the word thrive. That was the word that I picked for 2021 after everything that we went through in 2020. I looked at 2021 as the year to thrive in every area of my life. I had started at the end of in the second half of 2019. I started this podcast and I started to do a lot of projects, personal projects in 2020, that really helped me got through the pandemic. And I 2020 was a year of a lot of learning and growth and exploration and experimentation. And I thought, you know what, after everything that we've gone through in 2020, I want to thrive in 2021 in every area of my life. And that word has been with me throughout the entire year, reminding me of my purpose in 2021. So whether I was at work, and I was really frustrated, and I looking at my bracelet remind me that I wanted to thrive. So it really reminded me of how I wanted to show up in order to thrive at work. Or with the podcast, like what do I need to do to really thrive in the podcast? So I've been very intentional about the people that I have invited as guests on the podcast this year. I've been even more intentional this year than the previous years on the topics that I bring to the podcast. And in every project that I've done this year, my goal was to thrive. And always before starting a new project, like asking myself, what does thriving in this project would mean to me? How would that will look like? And having that bracelet with that power word has guided me throughout the year. For my birthday this year, I hosted for the first time ever a 2-day virtual conference. It was a free event. I had amazing speakers that came to the event. I had my friend Scott Miller. I had Anthony Trucks and Keisha and Brad Witzjak and many other guest speakers. And I decided to call that conference the Thrive Conference because that was the word that I picked for the year. And I think that conference for me was the way of me thriving as I enter a new decade in my life. So, I love this idea of choosing a power word for the year. And I love this idea over setting New Year resolutions. If you have been listening to my podcast, you know that I don't like New Year resolutions. I believe in goals, I believe in personal vision. I do not believe in New Year resolutions. But having a power word, it brings focus and clarity on what is that we want to create for our lives, how we want our year to look like. So, what I want to share with you today in this podcast episode is the process of choosing your power word and how choosing a power word for 2022 can help you focus on your goals and the actions that you want to work on next year. Picking a power word can also help you determine your priorities. We all play different roles in our lives. And when sitting down to set goals and intentions for the year, it can feel sometimes a little bit overwhelming to prioritize among all the things that we want to do, right? And we can feel really overwhelmed afterwards to keep up and stick to all the goals and all the intentions that we set for the new year. So for me, picking a power word for the year can wave all those goals in all the areas of your life together and help you focus and pay attention to how everything relates to each other, right? To how the parts make up the whole picture of what you want in your life for next year. And at the end of the day, we are one person living one life, and having a compass to guide us is so, so powerful. And that's what I think having a power word can help you with. It's like that compass, right? If my power word for the year, like for example, last year was thrive, I'm always asking myself, how can I thrive in this? Even in the small things or the big things. And for 2022, I've already picked my word for 2022, and that is unstoppable. And I'll share maybe at the end of this podcast episode why I picked that word. But what I want to do is I want to share with you 5 easy steps to help you choose your power word for 2022. And if you want to steal the idea of engraving that word on a bracelet, go for it. Find a way. We're going to talk about this in the very last step, but it's a great way to have your word like in front of you, guiding you throughout the year. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on the show notes a link to the bracelet that I got last year for this year and the one that I got this year for next year with my power word for the year, and you'll be able to get a discount if you want to make your own engraved bracelet. But before we get to talking about that more in detail, let's go through the 5 steps for picking or choosing your power word for 2022. So, step number 1 is to visualize the year ahead. I really, 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 really believe in the power of visualization. I think I've talked about visualization many times in the podcast. But for me, when I'm at the end of the year, what I like to do is take some time to visualize the year ahead. How do I want my life to look like next year? What do I see myself accomplishing next year? How do I see myself feeling? What am I enjoying next year? And A visualization basically it's about like playing a movie in your mind of how you see next year playing, right? If you were the director of that movie, which by the way you are, like how would you like that movie to go? What would you like that movie to look like, to feel like? And after visualizing how you want next year to look like, what I really want to invite you is to answer some questions, right? If I want to change my life from how it is today to what I saw on my visualization, what do I need more of on my life? What do I need less in my life? What skills do I need to develop? What do I need, or who do I need to become to live the life that I want? So it's important that you reflect on this thing. So one is visualize next year, play it in your head as if you were watching a movie. Think about, what do you see yourself doing? What have you accomplished? How do you want to feel? What are you enjoying in 2022? And once you have that clear in your mind, try to think about, what do you need more of? What do you need less of? What skills do you need to develop? And most importantly, who do you need to become to live the life that you just visualized? The second step is to list the things that you want to focus on in the new year. So, what I like to do is I like to brainstorm all the things that I want to focus on, all the things that I want to accomplish in the new year. This is not my list of goals for the year, it's just like an initial brainstorming, right? The way um, that I like to do this is just to start with a blank piece of paper. And right after doing the visualization exercise, I try to write everything that comes to my mind for like 10 minutes straight. Like I put a timer for 10 minutes and I write anything that comes to my mind into a blank piece of paper. All the things that I saw in my visualization, all the things that I want to feel, all the things that I want to accomplish, all the things that I want to do, all the things that I want to have and experiment and experience. Like it's basically a brainstorming session with yourself. And just, let it flow. Don't edit, don't change anything, just let it flow into a piece of paper. Step number 3 is to create a list. So, after writing down all the things that come to your mind or things that you want to have in 2022, things that you want to focus on next year, I take a few minutes to read through everything and come up with, on a separate piece of paper, all the words that come to my mind. So basically, I go through my brainstorming, I read through my brainstorming exercise, and I try to think, what are some words that come to my mind as I'm reading those things? What are some themes that I'm like picking up? Right? Once again, this is just a brainstorming exercise. So the key here, like in the previous step, is not to overthink it. You can't, or you should not edit anything that comes up, right? That is my best advice in this step, is just write down any word that comes to your mind and write one word per line, so you have like a list of words, and there's no limit on how many words you can write. Make sure that you're not judging yourself, you're not critiquing yourself, you're not questioning or editing any word that you write on that piece of paper. The idea here is that you write as quickly as you can without overthinking it. And again, this is just brainstorming. We're not deciding yet what is going to be your power word, but you want to build like an inventory of words that you going to look into in step number 4, which is review, refine, and pick your word. So, in this step, once you have gone through the brainstorming exercise, you're going to review the list and you're going to narrow it down to your favorite words. Chances are that as you review your list, you're going to start seeing like a theme going on. Do any of the words jump out at you, make you feel excited, nervous, scared, uncomfortable, or at ease? Sometimes the words that scare us the most can mean that we're on the right track because change isn't always easy. At the same time, I think finding your word can also bring peace and empowerment. So it's important that you connect with how those words make you feel. So any word that you have like strong feelings, whether are feelings of excitement, whether are feelings of peace and empowerment, or they're feelings, as I said, of fear and feeling uncomfortable and you know, feeling scared. All of those words that evoke strong feelings, circle them, right? And you're going to start narrowing down the list to the few that speak loudest to you. Think about words that feel right to you, and you're going to know. It's hard for me to explain, but you're going to know what words just feel right. And here's the thing, you don't need to overthink or overanalyze this process. You just need to trust your gut instinct on this one. Believe me, I know for me, it's very hard to do this, but for this exercise, don't overanalyze, don't overthink, don't over question each word. Just go with your gut instinct and how those words are making you feel. This last review and refinement can take some time and is at this point of the process where you can maybe experiment some analysis paralysis, right? That's why, as I said, it's important that you don't overthink it, that you just listen to your gut. The first time that I did this exercise, I was really struggling to just pick one word. So, um I went through this round like several times. Like I will review the list, I will narrow it down to a few, and then I will look at that list again and see which of those have I had stronger feelings about or speak louder to me, and I will narrow it even down. And you have to do this process of reviewing the words and narrowing and refining several times until you get to the one word. There hasn't been a year that I just got the one word. I had to go through this iteration several times of reading the words, connecting with the feelings, narrow it down to a shorter list, and then do it that again and again and again until I got to that one word. But the first time that I did this exercise, I was really, really struggling because there were a lot of words that I really, really liked. So I decided to ask other people for their input, for their opinion on what word should I pick. And let me tell you that that was the worst mistake that I could have made. Your word is yours. It needs to speak to you and no one else. So stay away from asking other people for their opinions. This is not a time that you want to ask for opinions. So I want to say that because this is a mistake that I made and it made it so difficult because every person that I asked for feedback, they were looking at those words from their own perspectives, from their own experiences, from their own point and stage in life that they were, and from their own priorities, which obviously were different than mine. So it's very important that whatever word you pick, it needs to speak to you. So in this step 4 of reviewing, refining, and ultimately picking your word, you're probably going to go through different iterations, and maybe it's going to take several days, maybe a couple of weeks until you get to the one word. But keep looking at the words, keep reiterating until you get to that one word that you it feels right. And again, I can't explain it, but you'll know when a word feels right. So now you have your power word for 2022. Step number 5 is to keep your word visible. If once you get to identify and narrow down your power word for the year, it is super important that you keep that somewhere that is visible. So every time that you see it, it reminds you, one, of your vision for the year, two, of your priorities, and three, the person that you want to become. That is the power of having a power word for your year. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, last year I engraved my word on a bracelet that I wear all year round. And, looking at the word at any time that I was feeling lost or confused, or that I needed to refocus, or that I wasn't sure, like, how to prioritize things that were coming my way. It was really a nice reminder throughout the year. It was like a compass, right? It really helped me to make it so much easier to prioritize during the year, to stay focused, and to work on becoming that person, right? That can live the life that I dream of. And as a result of that, I've really experienced a lot of growth in 2021. There's a lot of things that I've learned. There's a lot of things that I um I've become better at because of this focus on thriving, right? And for me, that was the right word at the right time. And as I mentioned earlier, also for 2022, the word that I pick is unstoppable. So I created a lot of momentum in 2021 with the podcast, with at work, in a lot of the habits and routines that I have installed in my life during 2021. That when I look at 2022, now I feel that I have everything that I need to really be unstoppable, to really go all in with my dreams and go all in with all the projects that I have in mind and really be unstoppable. So that's just, again, the process, the 5-step process that I follow to identify my power word. I hope this inspires you to also go through this exercise yourself. Is a easy to do exercise. It can take a little bit of time, but it can be quick. It's, it might take several days, but it's not like you're all day focusing on finding your word, because remember, the secret is not to overthink it, but really go with your gut instinct on this one. And once again, this last step of keeping it visible, just want to share a couple of ideas on how you can keep that word visible throughout the year, so it really serves as that compass and really reminds you of your vision and your priorities and the person that you're trying to become. Okay, I'm going to interrupt very quickly today's podcast episode to share something with you that I'm really excited about. I've been talking for weeks, for months, on how to end the year strong and create momentum into the new year. So I am going to be hosting a 22-day challenge for a strong start of 2022. For 22 days, you're going to be part of a private community with daily check-ins where I'm going to be sharing inspiration, motivation, tools, resources to help you have a strong start of the year. I've shared with you this statistic. Over 70% of the people give up on their New Year resolutions by mid of February. Beat all the statistics. Join the challenge and create the momentum towards the best year of your life. Go to the show notes of this podcast episode to find out more information and enroll in the 22-day challenge for a strong 2022. And now let's get back to today's podcast episode. So, of course, the first way to keep your word visible is to engrave it on a bracelet like I did last year and I'm doing for 2022. I already ordered mine. Actually, I already got my 2022 bracelet and I can't wait for January 1st to put it on and really feel that I am unstoppable. The other way is maybe it's a necklace that you can engrave it. So any piece of jewelry that you can engrave it, you can put it as the desktop of your computer. Like, your word is your desktop on your computer or the background on your phone. So you're constantly seeing it, right? And when you feel lost, when you feel frustrated, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel that you need to refocus on your priorities, you can easily access your word and your word is going to serve as that compass that I was talking about. So maybe you want to do a sticker and put it, on your phone or your computer, or you want to put it like on a frame on your desk. Put it somewhere that it's going to be visible most of the time to you. That's what I like the idea of the bracelet, because it goes with me anywhere that I go. No matter where I am, in what situation I am, I can always look at my bracelet and I see that word and it reminds me of my vision and my priorities and who I am striving to become. And that is so, so powerful. So, if you like today's podcast episode, let me ask you a favor. Share it with someone that you think can benefit from this particular episode, or share it in social media and tag me. You can find me as Leading Yourself Podcast, both in Facebook and Instagram. If you share it in your stories in Instagram or Facebook and you tag me, I will make sure that I personally thank you for spreading the word of the Leading Yourself podcast. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in to the podcast. I hope today was inspiring. I can't wait to hear what word you pick. Um, and by the way, I almost forgot. I'm going to put a link on the show notes of the podcast episode with 100 ideas, so 100 words that you can use as inspiration as you're writing down your words. So I know sometimes starting with a blank piece of paper can be challenging. So if you want to be inspired and you want to look at some words for inspiration, I'm going to put a link on the show notes again with 100 words that can be a good starting point to find your power word for 2022. And with that, I hope you have an amazing week. And I will talk to you again next week on another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.